Well, Trudeau's Canadian crucible of failure has actually managed to breed some reasonable Conservative politicians in Canada. But let's talk about Republicans for a second. You noted in your piece that Republicans that stood against the lockdowns on principle are now doing well politically. Has the Australian Liberal Party ceded any and all political benefit that they could have made from the COVID years due to their personal authoritarian behaviour?
Well, probably. I mean, it would be nice if Mr. Dutton came out and said, I disavow everything that the Morrison government did, but he's not going to do that. But if you look at Ron DeSantis, who took a hammering from the mainstream legacy press, which basically is wall-to-wall left, but he learned his data and he stood up for his core values of freedom, and we're not going to ruin the lives of young people and small business owners. And remember, during the entire pandemic, the political class didn't take a pay cut and the bureaucrats didn't take a pay cut. And so DeSantis was proved right. And again, as I said on Allan Jones last night, if you look at cumulative excess deaths from the start of the pandemic to now, the hardest measure to game, Sweden has the lowest per capita excess deaths in the OECD. And they never locked down. They didn't close schools. They didn't do any of that. And when people say, the Australian government did a great job on lockdowns, they just don't know what they're talking about. There was massive amounts of propaganda, is all you could call it. So if they had come out and been brave, they would have taken a pounding for a few months. But today they would be immensely popular.
Yes, well, I know exactly what DeSantis stands for. I know exactly what Trump stands for. We even know exactly what Biden stands for, but I haven't got the faintest clue what the Australian Liberals stand for, and that's a big problem when you want to contest an election. Now, the Liberals, as you say, have surrendered the cultural argument on every front for 2 decades. Now, I don't understand, James. When Labor are in power, they waste no time shaping Australian culture to fit their worldview, regardless of how slim their electoral margin is. But the Liberals, they never so much as fix a single line in the school curriculum, let alone shape society toward conservatism. Why does this happen? It's like you give the Liberal Party the keys and they never drive the car.
Listen, it's even worse than you say, Alexander. Look at the appointments they make. I mean, the Labor comes in and they appoint people who think like them. Liberal Party comes in and they appoint people who don't think like Conservatives. So if you go back to the pandemic, every single member of the massively overpaid Australian Human Rights Commission were Liberal appointees, all 7 commissioners. And they were the ones who didn't say a peep during the entire pandemic, not about police thuggery, not about censorship. They couldn't find a single problem with what Lord Sumption called the biggest inroads on our civil liberties in 300 years. Now, we know that at some point there'll be some, supposed refugee, someone claiming refugee status, and the whole Human Rights Commission will go into overdrive. But when there was really massive civil liberties, and they didn't say a peep, all Liberal appointees, the top judiciary, over majority Liberal appointees. And why is it that on all the key bodies, they, as you said, I work in the university sector. It got worse every year under the coalition. The number of people, academics in the university sector who are right of center is collapsing. In whole disciplines, you can't find any. They keep saying most of the public law lawyers are in favor of the voice because they're all left wing. I mean, really, you could count on one machine operator's hand the number of right of center public law professors, and not even an overly astute machine operator at that. So, I mean, we have real problems, and they just don't go in and fight. They don't fight on the transgender issue. They don't fight on very many issues at all. And the general view seems to be that we can just focus on economics, we're going to win. But that's not true. You can't defend the capitalist free market system unless you believe in, risk taking, unless you believe in deferred gratification, and the sort of main cultural values you need to have. So I don't really understand what's happened to the Liberal Party, but it's a real mess.